think I really had a beggars can't be choosers mentality, that if someone's willing to give me money, I'm going to take it because that's what I need. And I did. And I think if I were to do it again, I don't think that mentality was wrong. I'd probably do the same thing, but I would absolutely be more targeted, not just because I'd bring on people who understood the sector better and would actually be able to help as potential angels or if they had connections to funds, but just because the chance of success would have been higher with people that understand the industry. And I see that now. Obviously, I'm not fundraising, so they are slightly different conversations. But when I talk to companies, like L'Oreal, we won a competition they ran earlier, and just seeing how these are all people who work in the space and they understand what we're building and why we're building it. It was the easiest. Like I didn't have to convince them; they were convinced before I even started talking about my company, which was not the case for most of the investors I was talking to because they just don't get beauty tech. So yeah, I would definitely target people who understand my company if I was raising my round again.
I mean, VC originally was like to back hardware plays, wasn't it? Which did have long time horizons. And then in the kind of, let's do the simplest, most cash generative activity line of thinking, it became synonymous with backing software companies because the time horizon was shorter, because the scalability was easier. The risk was, I don't know whether the risk is less or not. It depends who you talk to, I suppose. But I think this is the goal and role of venture capital, is to back these long-term plays where there is a lot of visioning, a lot of risk, a long time horizon. And I think increasingly it really it's difficult for people that aren't expert in the space to play in that space. I think you just get we see a lot of just ignorant bets being placed, where like just the questions haven't been asked. That's why we started the angel group, Science Angel Syndicate, that we did, because we just time and time again heard investors for the companies that we were building say, this is really interesting, but either we can't diligence the science because we don't have anyone to turn to, or this is really interesting, we'll take a punt on it. And I was like, neither of those are really the phrases that I wanted to be said from a hopefully sensible money manager. But there just aren't very many. There aren't very many in the UK in particular that have the depth of experience, technical or operational, within an early stage deep tech company to genuinely look at these sorts of companies and say, what will the obstacles be? How will you overcome the obstacles and actually add value to the founders? I think a lot of VCs are playing quite like a laid back game of placing bets and nothing more. And I think just due to the nature of the space being as complicated as it is, you do need that other generation oftentimes, or, buy side of the table actually adding value, not just adding cash to the equation. So I think you've seen a lot of people come into the green space and the clean tech space and the climate tech space and try and place bets. And now that market times are harder, quite a lot of them have withdrawn, realizing that it's not really where they see their most immediate returns and it's not where they add their most value. So they are getting out-competed by groups that are, I think, more value-adding and more better positioned. So I think the market is kind of self-correcting. It's a good space to be in. I think I can't kind of dismiss wanting to do impact investments that do or substantially change-making in the world, but I think it's very difficult to do that if you don't have at least core to your team the technical expertise to look at it. I think that's how you make investments in, Theranos, to point a finger at an obvious name. And I think you only get a few chances of those in a small investment ecosystem like the UK, of investors putting money behind a company that ultimately blows up and was fraudulent from start to end before the appetite for deep tech investment goes away. So it's really important that you protect against poor investments made in that space.
Spraying and praying is a complete waste of time. It can work, but you're going for volume. But you can save your time and energy and find the right people by selecting them and telling them why you have selected them. And then the process is much smoother. So go to people when you're fundraising, and even for hardware. So it's about finding, first of all, you should build that, as you know, you should build your network with founders should build their network with investors way before they need investors. So when you are a founder and have in mind to build a company that will require external capital because you want external capital to grow faster and because you value other people's networks and expertise, you have to start building your network as soon as you have the idea, unless you're planning on bootstrapping forever. So build your network always before you need your network, because investors, it's all about minimizing the risk by knowing you, trusting you, getting to work with you before investing in you. So even in hardware, then if they're in that space, they should build a network with potential investors within that space who understand their industry, who understand the problem they're solving. When founders go to investors who don't understand their industry or the problem they're solving, they are going to be educating potential investors. And in the end, it's very rare to change the mind of an investor who's used to invest in a certain category to start investing in something else. When they don't know what you're talking about, I've done the mistake myself in the past when I was myself fundraising and learning the process the hard way. I was meeting investors who were interested in what we're doing. So they were very curious, but I spent so much time educating them. It was exhausting, educating them on what we are doing. And in the end, I was like, am I like a teacher here? Are they just learning from me to boost their ego and go to their colleagues and friends and say, oh, I heard about this company, I might consider investing right now, I'm just learning. I'm like, come on, I don't have time to waste. So there is a lot of time wasted around the wrong investors. For example, so going to wrong investors means wrong stage for you. So if you're an idea stage, think about VCs. No, just forget about it. For each stage, there is a kind of investor. Idea stage, friends, family, fans, and fools. A bit later stage, pre-seed, even pre-seed, seed, but you have an MVP, you have some traction, you have a team, go to angel investors. When you have some paying customers, traction, and you are starting to scale, there are early stage VCs, accelerators, and etc. But targeting the wrong investors in terms of stage, industry, expertise, when they don't understand what you talk about, when they're outside your industry, is going to be very exhausting for founders and a complete waste of time. So I'm not into praying and spraying. I'm into finding investors, telling them why them, because of their network, because of their expertise, because I value what they can bring on the table. I'm not just into money. I'm into smart money. And that makes them realize that you have done your homework, that you came prepared and you know what you're working on. You have clear intentions, clear plan, and you don't get distracted. Also, investors will not invest in founders who are in need or who are in a weak position. Let's be honest, who are not in a good position. We're not here as investors to lose our money. We're here to bet on the best. So be the kind of companies they would want to invest in, meaning be the kind of companies that don't need investors. So don't go to investors saying, I'm raising money. No, I'm raising money, but from the right one. I'm picky with my investors. I'm picky. I know what I'm doing. So that's the attitude I would recommend founders to embrace more.
I feel like that applies to fundraising as well, right? Like you want to definitely start early. You want to, build those connections because like the worst thing you can do is sort of think about fundraising when you have like 6 months of cash left because then the investor also knows that. So you might not get such good terms versus if you're showing somebody your journey, you're showing a momentum, you're showing like a progress, it's always a better approach. To do it. And obviously you want to be clever about what you share at which stage. You want to keep some cards close to you and then, you want to reveal them in due course, while obviously being truthful and everything. But like, I think it's a bit like dating, right? Like, like you want to put your best foot forward, and as you feel more comfortable, you want to sort of open up.
This is why one of the reasons I believe that the future of venture capital is in the space of deep tech. Just because it's hard to replicate, so that there is a barrier to entry, hard to make decisions on those deals if you're a VC. So it naturally means that fewer VCs could go after this sector. And there is another trend, given the current international, policy developments, this technology security for the countries. Each big country would like to have own proprietary solutions. For example, if you look at quantum computing, Germany is doing their quantum computing, France is their quantum computing, UK is doing their quantum computing, US is doing their quantum computing. It's the same as with China. So it means that on one hand, there is a strong market driver for such solutions, and it will be, I believe, for the next decade or two. And on the other hand, in each country, there is a separate market. Maybe the deals in the sector would be smaller, but more startups in each country would exist.
Investors look for a trend, right? Not just dots that are sort of sporadic here, right? So you need a trend line over time to convince someone to give you money. And so Techstars put us in the room with people like AFRL, for example, NASA JPL, a bunch of other customers, because they're so connected as a VC firm. The value that they brought me, other than giving us money to go and build our company, really was to go and connect with end users and end users early, right? People who could be like, if you build that, I want to pay for it. And so we focused on building, at first our company was slightly different in our focus, but we focused on building value to people who are like, I'd pay you a lot of money if you could do X, Y, and Z. And getting that customer discovery while we weren't hurting for money actually helped us a lot, I would say. Those are the tight-knit, I would say tight-knit relationships that we worked with now, right? Where you can have a low, I can't think of the word, like a conversation that's a low stakes conversation, right? Where people don't feel like you're trying to sell them and that you're being annoying, right? Where you can just literally talk like through their problems, doing that without the urgency of I have a huge team and I'm burning like $10,000 an hour or something crazy like that if I don't have a customer. I think that was really key for us is we Techstars, people could see it as it was a holding pattern for our company, but it was really like when you plant a seed and you don't see the seed sprout for a while. All of a sudden, it has this like beautiful fruit. So that's really how we both raised VC funding and customer interactions, where a lot of the customers working with came from that time of they went from, oh my gosh, we have to talk to these guys, to no, we have a personal relationship with them. They're building something that actually makes sense for our company. Like, let's get on board with that and work with that, because they know us as human beings and not just people trying to sell them.
VC was originally called venture capital. Okay. And it was actually originally designed for very risky hardware businesses for the semiconductor industry. Businesses that had almost, very, very low probabilities of success, required huge amounts of upfront capital to get them off the ground. So we're actually going back now, creating deep tech funds to actually the roots of why the whole VC industry was designed.